Hey everyone, welcome back. Got a pretty quick video here. Figured I'd film this before it went to scrap. This is a 1983 1100cc Honda water-cooled motorcycle engine, 4-cylinder, 5-speed transmission with overdrive, and this is off one of my dad's motorcycles. He bought the bike when it was pretty much brand new in 1983, and I want to say, like, I don't know, sometime around 2015, give or take a few years, I got another engine from a parts bike. It was pretty much new, and we swapped this one out. So this one, it ran when we pulled it out, but it was really tired, really weak. The transmission and the clutch was still good, so there's really nothing savable on this. I'll probably save the stator cover and maybe some of the smaller hardware, but this thing's pretty tired. So come along. I'm going to take the thing apart and we're going to see what a 300,000 mile motorcycle engine looks like on the inside. Alright, so this is the bike. It's a 1983. The engine in it, it's an 86, right? It's an 84 engine that I got out of the parts bike. So soon the bike is going to be painted, but anyway, this is the engine here. It's a bike, V65 Magna. The engine was just bolted. It has the original carburetors, ignition system, and everything else. The only thing we changed was the engine. So Dad's owned the bike since '83. Here's the original manual, and probably the only man that has worse handwriting than me. This is where he's keeping track of his oil changes. So it starts at 12,000. He wrote it all down to 136. And then he went back and he added these check marks. That's for 200,000 miles. And you can see here 214,000 miles. And then he started writing it down somewhere else, which I don't have. So the bike's got at least 300,000, but we have right here logs up to 200 and some thousand. So let's see how tired that thing is. Alright, so to save time and memory space on the phone, I've just cracked bolts loose. I haven't taken any covers off. We'll do that together. So it's under door number 1. Door number 1's locked. Let's try door number 2 here. See a nice smash mark welded up there. Dad doesn't remember what he did to deserve that. Alright. Good bit of wear on that cam lobe right there. Wow. Yeah. Good wear there. Here's the valves. Timing chain.
That engine had a timing chain upgrade too.
Yeah, so he says this engine had a timing chain upgrade. That cam bearing is out. That lobe is really worn. These ones aren't too bad. Can't really see up there, but we'll get that taken off too and get a better look at the cam. He said the sprockets look good. He put a new timing chain on it, so that's not original. Alright, so door number 1, got the universal master key. Yeah, that did it. Works every time. Yeah, a little bit of wear on that one, not terrible. Some bad scoring on this one, not as bad as the other side. Let's see what we have here. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, these cams are tore up. So no lash anywhere. There's absolutely no lash. Chain and sprockets look good. Oh, here, let's look at the cooling lines. Wowzers. It's a water-cooled engine. That's one of the coolant passages. I just cut this one open too. I don't know how you can see that, but that is packed full of rust. So, alright, what do you guys think? Next thing, let's get these cams opened up and then we'll go after the heads after that. Alright, so as you can see, I got the cam caps off, timing chains off. This is the tensioner. It sits down in the center, and we have the cam here. So It's not ruined. It's definitely worn. I mean, this isn't something, you know, you could reground, you know, have it reground and use it again, but it's definitely tore up. See on the valve bridge here, there's wear. It's like the uneven wear that was on the cam. See it there. Inside of the cam bearings really don't look bad though. This one's kind of rough. Yeah, that's probably just from sitting though. I don't see any. Yeah, there's some scoring. Yeah, this one's pretty tore up, so the head would have to be machined. Yeah, there's gouges in them. They're tore up. It still had good oil pressure, just kind of surprising seeing how much wear is there. But anyway, I'll pop this one off myself, and then when we go to the other two cylinders, we'll do those together. So I have this head pretty much ready to lift off, but I want to show you guys a couple things first. So the oil feed from the engine comes up to right here. There's a banjo bolt there, and that feeds the head. So oil comes in here, and then there's this crossover oil line that would sit on top of the cam tensioner. One thing that's interesting is these valve bridges, the two on this side are hard to get stuck, you know, it's actually pretty hard to move. Two on this side are nice and free, right? See that? These cam journals are less tore up, the cams look better, and these cam journals are much more scored, and the surfaces on the cam are all scored up. I'll show you guys that. Let's see here. Yeah, so this is the good side of the cam. This is the dirty side. I'll show you the other cam too. The other cam's worse. Yeah. Alright, so we have good side, bad side. Camera's really not picking it all up, but this cam probably wouldn't come back from being ground. Focus, God. So anyway, I'm gonna put you guys in the stand and we'll pull this head off together. So I already knocked it loose with the master key. It's pretty much ready to come off, so let's see what's in here. So yeah, there you go. Cooling jackets are plugged. See, right there, there's a hole in the cooling water passage. A lot more carbon on that one cylinder. Wow, actually the coolant line is all full of holes. So, all right, let's take a closer look. Alright, so down here in the center, behind the oil crossover, is the timing chain tensioner. So you see right now the timing chain's tension. So we have 4 bolts down there to take off, and then we'll pull these pins here. This pin right here, and that'll release the tensioning arm. So when we do that, we'll have enough slack in the timing chain to get these cams out. So I'm going to do that. Not much to see, 4 bolts and a pin. I'll bring you right back. A lot cleaner. It's like a new spark plug in that one. That spark plug's backed way out. The cams on this side are still pretty scored up and nasty, but all the valve bridges, I'll show you. All the valve bridges on this one aren't stuck. They'll move. So you can see the cam journals are tore up. This one was really bad. The other 3 weren't terrible, but certainly not in good shape. So what do we have down here? Cylinder walls look good. A little bit of ring ridge. This one had water sitting in it, so it's like a tiny bit of surface rust. That piston looks a lot cleaner too. I don't know if you guys can see, but I'll take you in on a close-up here. Alright, so I think we're going to transition into stage 2 here. Plan is I want to take the water pump off. I'll show you guys that. This is the clutch slave cylinder. It's hydraulic, we'll leave that. Get the water pump off, and then we'll get the stator cover off. I'm probably going to save the stator cover and the stator. So let's get after it. So we've already used some parts of this water pump. I think it's gutted actually on the new motor. Pretty sure there's nothing in it, but we'll find out. Stuck on a dowel pin. Really stuck on a dowel pin. Yeah, so the guts have already been pulled out of it. No seal, no impeller. Nice cast aluminum housing though. Alright, onto the stator cover. Engine turns nice. See here, I think that is the starter. This one of the gears on the starter, the centrifugal clutch on the starter, has been wearing into the case there. So there's the oil dipstick sticking out the side. Probably not gonna save this case. Show you inside. So if you're not familiar with motorcycles, in pretty much all motorcycle applications anywhere recent history, the engine and the transmission clutch are all combined into one unit. So we have the engine here, this is the crank output right there, and this is your clutch pack. This is a racing clutch that was added by my dad later in life, and the main gear right there. So this is a 5-speed with overdrive, so really 6-speed transmission. So you have the engine, kind of this portion here. This is the transmission, and that's the output shaft of the transmission right there. So, all right, I'm gonna get this clutch off, and we'll take some more of this stuff out of the way, and I'll bring you back. All right, so before we go any further, this motorcycle had a centrifugal start system, a centrifugal starter clutch, I should say. So the starter would have been mounted up over here. The starter would have turned this outside gear that sat there. So the starter would have turned this outside gear, and in turn this gear would have turned the clutch, the outside of this clutch. And when it came up to a certain speed, there's weights in here that centrifugally come out like a governor, and they engage this clutch, which in turn starts the engine. So I just thought that was kind of neat. This is what you saw falling out of the case when I first took it off, because the starter wasn't there to support it. So yep, starter turns the outside, in turn turns this inner gear, spins the clutch, so you get enough speed, it engages, and that's how the bike starts. So I just got this C-clip pulled out of the clutch pack, and the plate is just about to come off. Inside of the plate, nice roller bearing. Toast. Yeah, it's really growly. Doesn't want to spin freely. Pilot shaft. Yeah, that's the center of the clutch pack. That nut has obviously been off before. You can see where someone used an air hammer on it, so I reckon we're probably going to give it the same treatment. Alright, so after a few seconds with that little guy, I got the nut, got that spun off, these two plates out of the way, so I think the whole clutch pack should just come right off. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's kind of heavy. Yeah. So that should look pretty familiar to anyone that's ever worked on a manual transmission. Big old bearing in there. So there are your clutches and steels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total. That all looks pretty good in there, really. look at that bearing. Yeah, a little bit of wear on the thrust bearing. Clutch material looks good though. That's nice. I'm not going to pull all of them apart, but anyway, it's a better look inside. Pull this off. That's the idler, and the engine output, it's the transmission. That looks good, yeah. Still spins free. It's a transmission. Doesn't sound too bad. Alright. Let's get that out of there. Looks good. Alright, I'm going to need both my hands. I'll bring you guys right back. Alright, through the magic of video editing, I've saved you the trouble of watching a few very annoying steps. So, got pretty much everything disassembled here. The clutch shaft, gear selector shaft, the clutch pack, everything's out. Here's the oil pump. That tang was connected to a gear that ran up on a chain to this. So that's your oil pump, and then that shaft goes all the way through to the other side. There's another tang just like that that would have driven the water pump. So what we just did over here is we used the world's crappiest 2-jaw puller to get the stator cover off. So that's the part that actually spins right here. It's a tapered fit on the shaft in the center. So you got your big magnets on the outside. This thing weighs quite a bit. Got that off the puller. I took 4 number 10 bolts outside of the stator off. So let's see if it wants to slide out. Well, it's starting to. Yeah, there it is. And so for those that don't know, like in a motorcycle or like an outboard motor, at least older ones, instead of having an alternator or a generator to charge your battery and make 12 volts, you have a stator. And it's, you know, completely bathed in engine oil. It's inside, and that's what it is. So I think that's gonna about do it for today. So it'll only be a moment for you, but 24 hours for me. We'll come back here and get those pistons knocked out, and we might split the case, but I'll see you tomorrow. Alright, back for round 2. Gonna bust the oil pan off. I already broke all the bolts free, so we'll bust the oil pan off, see if we can knock some pistons out. So I think a lot of this junk in here, this stuff, I think there's no metal. I think it's pieces of the timing chain tensioner. It's plastic, like a red plastic. So I'm thinking timing chain tensioner, but let me know in the comments what you think that is. It's like red plastic. I don't see any metal. All right, let's take a look in there, guys. I'll just wipe my hands off. A little bit of that junk on the pickup screen. Crud. There's one piece of metal right there. Right there. Piece of metal. Bottom of the timing chain. You got 2 rod caps right there. You got your transmission down here. Those are the different gears. This is your oil pump right there. So, alrighty. Gonna remove some bolts. We're gonna get the oil pump, water pump drive assembly off, and see about getting down there to those rod caps. So I figured this would be kind of neat for folks that aren't super familiar with motorcycle engines. So just want to show you guys again with all the stuff removed. It's kind of split in half, right? You have half of this engine, a little bit less than half transmission. So this is a 5-speed with overdrive, so 6-speed transmission. Busted all the main cap bolts off. That's in preparation to split the case. Be more on that later, but I want to show you this transmission, guys. It's in neutral right now, but it is in really, really good shape. Sounds good. Very little backlash. I've looked at all the gears, and not a single one is chipped. They're really not very sharp. They're not worn really badly at all. Pretty incredible for how many miles are on this. I wish my truck transmission looked this nice. See, there's no noise there at all, just silent. No, very, very little backlash. So that's pretty neat. This is the output shaft right here. So I got to take that off to split the case. That's a clutch slave cylinder down there. That should come off as an assembly with the output shaft. I'm not sure if everything's out, but let's give it a try. Must be missing something. So I was thinking, like I said, that I could take the slave cylinder out with this as an assembly. Not the case. So this is where your hydraulic line from your clutch master cylinder would tie in. There's your bleed screw. Good bit of corrosion on there. This has been out a few times to replace the seal, so I think we're in. Let's try this again. Alright, I got both my hands here. Bring it right back. Alright, sorry about that, guys. It was held up on a dowel pin. Just had to use both my hands. Pried it off. Fell right off. So, there's your shim right there. This is the output drive. So it's just 2 bevel gears, just like you'd have in, like a pinion in a rear end. But it's just changing the direction from this way to that way. So, the drive shaft attaches to these splines. Here's your preload shim right there, sorry. And the bike, this isn't actually the rear end. The bike does have another rear end at the other end of this drive shaft. So, alright, I got a couple more bolts here. I got to flip the engine on its side, and there's bolts that go all the way around the case that hold it together. So we're going to get those out. Then we're going to split the case. We'll take a better look at the transmission and knock the pistons out, look at the bearings. Alright, so went around the entire case with putty knives and various sizes of chisel, and went around until it quite loudly popped and opened up. So I'm going to attempt to take it apart so you guys get to watch me struggle and then come back and cut the video. Let's see what happens. Well, there you have it, folks. That's why they call it splitting the case. See it, the transmission and the engine being integral. It's all one piece. Over there you have the main bearing journals. We'll take a look at the bearings in a minute. And then over here you have your shift forks. That's your foot lever for the gear select. And then obviously over there you have the crankshaft and the rods and pistons. So let me get you out of the stand and we'll go in for a closer look. Alright, so gonna take a look at these main bearings for the crank. I got the crank just pulled out of the way. So look at this one first. It's definitely got some wear on it, but if you look at the crank, it's like perfectly smooth. Absolutely like no wear. There's a little bit of staining in the center where it wasn't making contact with the bearing, but all the crank journals are like that. No wear. Not even a little bit to catch your fingernail on. This, you get a little bit of catch in your fingernail, but it's nothing. Same thing down here. Yeah, that bearing, I don't know if you can see, but there's some brass showing pretty much all these bearings. That one still looks good. There's a good bit of brass showing in this one. But again, guys, I mean, there's no wear on the crank. You know, just a little tiny bit of polishing and be good to go. This bearing, that's missing the shell. More of the same here. I mean, the bearings are worn, but they're not worn to the point that it damaged the crank. You know, and yeah, same thing there. Some brass showing there. I'll wipe that. It's a better look. That's pretty much how they all look. I mean, it's worn for sure. I mean, it's got 300,000 miles on it, but the crank is not damaged at all. I mean, that's good as new, really. Pull this one out for you. That one's not so bad. There's not much brass showing there. So yeah, that's that. And again, guys, now look at this transmission. I mean, it is nice. There's the clutch dog right there. Almost get it to line up with one hand, but yeah, I looked at this again. There's not a single chipped tooth or anything. So we'll pull that apart. I might show that. All right, onwards and upwards. I'm going to pull those rod caps off and we'll look at those bearings next. Well, we finally did it. That is pretty much as far apart as you can get one of these. And I got everything kind of cleaned up and laid out, and I really want to show you because to me this is pretty incredible, right? So we have all 4 pistons out, got the bearings cleaned up. I don't know how much the camera is going to pick up, so a little bit of wear there, 1 score down to the brass on the upper bearing shell. This one's the worst, some bad scoring, definitely down to the brass. That one I'm surprised it wasn't knocking, and these two are decent. It's not down to the brass anywhere, some light scoring. All right, good compression rings, seized oil control ring, good compression rings, partially broken oil control ring, all good rings. This one, we have a seized compression ring. See if it'll focus. The top compression ring is seized right there. That top ring is flush with the piston crown. Moves over here, seized over there. So all the cylinder bores look really good. Honestly, if you honed them, there'd probably only be 2 or 3 spots that I saw that wouldn't just clean up with the hone. Pretty incredible. Transmission, again, seemingly like brand new. Looked at it probably 5 or 6 times now. All the gears slide freely, they rotate freely. Clutch dogs all engage. I mean, really incredible. So, you guys probably know motorcycle engines usually don't make it past 100,000 miles. This one's probably got 300,000 on it. I showed you the logs. I've ridden, made it over 200,000, and my dad says that he was writing it down somewhere else and it's got over 3,000. So let me show you a few other things on the bike here. So you might see this thing has a red line of 11,000 RPM, and there is no rev limiter on this bike. It's got carburetors and CDI ignition. There's no rev limiter, so it does what you tell it. Old man says that probably a dozen times it saw well over 11 grand, and I can definitely say that I've helped him change probably 3 drive shafts and a rear end in this bike that he's blown out. So that engine over there has seen some abuse. That's Honda's not a sponsor, but good on them. They definitely made a damn good motorcycle engine. Alright, so the last thing, guys, before we close it up here is, I know some of you are going to say, how could you do this to an engine? If it's in such good shape, why are you scrapping it? Well, I did try and sell it for 2 years. Nobody wanted it, and it's probably because I was honest. I said this engine has 300,000 miles. The case is broken. If you're watching really closely, you probably see where it was broken and it had been fixed. So it wouldn't have been right to sell it. So guys, thanks so much for watching. It's B-list content. I'll see you on the next one.